A little over a year ago, I made a video showcasing how you can effectively beat the "You Have One Day" Project Zomboid challenge. The premise centered around running a vanilla game and gathering enough supplies to build a bridge out onto a pond, where you could then set up a fence barrier that would prevent zombies from reaching you. This would allow you to survive for a few days before your game inevitably crashed due to the amount of zombies constantly rendering in and out of frame. But what if there was a way to live indefinitely, without crashing the game? Hey, hello, howdy, how you doing? I'm that guy Preds, and today we're gonna beat the "You Have One Day" challenge, allowing you to survive for as long as you'd like without worrying about your game crashing after a few weeks. To show that this can be done in one day without hopping into debug mode, I'm not gonna cut any footage. I'll only be speeding up sections that don't merit any explanation. I call this one my "One Day This Is So Dumb Why Would It Work" build. Now, the build itself isn't all that important here, but you want to make sure you have at least level 3 carpentry. That's really all that matters in this. Same with the character. If you want to min-max, throw on some extra clothing that you can turn into sheet rope, but it's unnecessary since you can just grab clothes from the dresser when you spawn in. The very first thing I did when I spawned in was check for sneakers, since I went with the normal shoes like an idiot. After that, it's straight downstairs to the kitchen. I went underweight here, so I'm looking for any high-calorie foods that I don't need to prep, along with a can opener. If you don't get a can opener here, just restart. It's much easier than trying to go door to door later on, and you'll see why. Anyway, after leaving the starter home, head south. There's an opening into a small park with a shed located in the southeast here. There's always a chance to find a hammer and a saw here, so it's worth checking every single time. After that, you can continue south where you'll find a brick building with 2 doors. If for some reason both doors are locked, the windows out back are also accessible. In here is a hardware store where you can find things like nails, gardening supplies, hammers, saws. Really everything we'll ever need is in this room. So what are we looking for? Well, we're gonna need a hammer, a saw, at least 1 box of nails, some seeds, preferably cabbages or potatoes, a trowel or shovel, and an axe or a hatchet. We'll also need a bag of some kind, whether it's got sand or gravel, but those won't be in here. It's worth noting that I've had this happen a couple times where almost nothing spawns in this building. If that does happen to you, just restart. It's not worth stressing over. After looting the hardware store, we still need a hatchet, but before we head to the second store, I want to make a quick pit stop at the building we'll be using for this scenario. You want to look for the building with that yellow tile on the second floor with the concrete roof. There are quite a few buildings in this area, but this is the one we want. For now, just drop everything at the top. There's no reason to waste time organizing everything. You'll have a ton of spare time for that later on. For a bed, I'm going to use one of the couches downstairs, and if for some reason you break both of them, well, there's also a single bed in the room right next to us. With everything dropped off, we can head back out to the second hardware store. It's all the way to the south and connected to a string of shops that looks absolutely nothing like a hardware store. The gear here is basically the same as the first store we went into, but I do seem to have better luck finding a hand axe here compared to the other building. It's important to note that you really only need 1 axe for this entire setup. At this point, we have basically everything we need aside from the logs and the sack. There's a little garage right to the north of the building that sometimes has a few gravel bags in it. Unfortunately for this run, I was unlucky and didn't find any here, but that's alright. We still have some more places to check later on. For now though, we're next to the end of the map and this is my favorite place to chop down trees, so I switched focus to that. Here's where the sheet rope comes in handy. If you grab 6 sheet rope, you can carry 12 logs at a time compared to the 3 or 4 without the sheet rope. This will save you a ton of time and it's something that you should definitely be doing. After running a few rounds of logs, I figured it was finally time to go find a gravel bag. If you don't know, there's a small survivor camp in the southwest with a crate that has a chance to spawn some, which is where I ended up finding the sole gravel bag for this session. Now that we have a sack, we can run and grab the trowel before spending the next several hours running dirt up to the rooftop for our soon-to-be farm. After picking up the remaining logs, of course. Once I had enough dirt, I began my final looting run, and at this point, you'll want to switch focus to canned food since it's non-perishable and will last months, especially with the spawn rate in this scenario. There's a grocery store right next to our base, so after hitting a house or two, it's a good idea to swing back and just loot everything you can get your hands on there. At around 1 AM, I got started on the build. You're going to use that same crate fence setup, but it's a little different here. Since you can't place it directly on the top of the staircase, you'll need to build out like this. With this setup, the zombies will get stuck walking in between the fence pieces here and won't actually hit the objects since they also can't climb over them due to the crates. Now, normally you'd be done here, but I've also taken the liberty to add one extra piece which will prevent your PC from crashing. What you want to do now is build a wall around the crate fence setup. This will prevent you from seeing the zombies, which in turn will stop the game from attempting to render in thousands of zombies all at the same time. It takes a little bit more effort, but it's 100% worth it. At this point, it's about 4:30 in the morning, and we've got about 4.5 hours before zombies start spawning in. With the time I had left, I set out to do some final looting. You can really do anything you want here. Since I was underweight, I focused on things like ice cream or other high-calorie foods. I only went out for a few hours since I didn't want to risk being too late and not being able to hop back over the wall if I was tired or exerted. I also went ahead and started to plant some crops, and feel free to follow along, but keep them spaced out so that the diseases don't spread between all of them. And now, all you have to do is wait. This is a random tidbit here, but I found that specifically in the You Have One Day challenge, zombies only get pinged to your location when you move one tile. What I mean is, if you stay completely still, eventually they'll lose interest and begin wandering around. But whenever you move a single tile, they're pinged to that location again. All of this just to say, the more you move, the more they know where you are. This helps when you're trying to sleep up here as well, since you can just sit on the couch for like 4 hours and then sleep once the zombies have lost interest. I'm gonna drastically speed up time here since all that's left to do is wait, but if you follow the setup to this video, you're basically free to do whatever now. With crops like cabbages, you won't need to worry about water once your soda, water, and booze are gone. You can also hit the zombies through the fencing if you hop the outer wall. Just be careful that you don't jump after a few days and end up trying to texture in a few thousand zombies. You'll only end up crashing your game. At this point, there's not really much else for me to show. So with that, I want to give a giant thank you to my YouTube members and Patreon supporters who make it possible for me to make videos like this for all of you. I appreciate you all immensely. Alright, I'm gonna get out of here. Thank you all for watching, I appreciate you all, and as always, thanks for stopping by.